litigation in this docket that's pending before the Utah Public Service Commission involving a proposed rate increase by Rocky Mountain Power. We very much appreciate you being here this evening, and we want to hear from anybody who wants to speak. And we think that's important for us to get your input. My name is Jerry Fenn. I'm the chair of the Public Service Commission of Utah. To my right is Commissioner David Clark. To my left is Commissioner John Harvey. We're the three folks who make this decision. We'll be issuing a decision by April 25th. This matter involves many days of hearings, and we'll see how it goes tonight. We won't go till 1 a.m. if we'll adjourn earlier than that. If we need another public witness day, then we'll consider that. Let me just talk a little bit about this process. And I want to say, first of all, we've received literally hundreds of individual messages and many other emails from groups and representative groups. Some of those would be essentially duplicative emails, but we've read those emails that have come in, and they're in the record and will be considered further. We know this proposed rate increase has caused a great deal of concern by many members of the public, and we recognize that many of you have very strong feelings in one form or another about this proposed matter, this proposed rate increase. So we'll give folks an opportunity to speak tonight, to make a public comment. According to our rules, we are required to hold a public witness day, but you can make your comments. You won't be sworn, put under oath. You'll express your feelings. You don't need to be put under an oath to do so. But this, however, is a judicial proceeding, and we're going to conduct this accordingly. So we're really hopeful that you will maintain decorum this evening and dignity in this public proceeding, just as you would if you were in a courtroom. We understand some of you have brought signs to articulate a viewpoint. I'd like to ask you to hold them up now. Okay? Just, can you spread out a little bit? We want to make sure we see those signs. I'd like somebody in our staff to take a photograph of that. Can you do that, John? Keep holding your signs up. And the reason I'm asking you to do this is because I'm going to ask you to put them away once you've done showing them, okay? Just because I think that will be perhaps disruptive of the proceeding, and others will have a hard time seeing. But it's important that we see, you've put in the effort. I see the Monopoly money sign there from the community chest. That's, appreciate seeing that. But let's make sure we have we'll put that in the record, every sign that's here. Some of you have gone to a great deal of work to put those signs together. We don't need you to hold them up and wave them when people are making their comments, but I think it's important to see those now. We have pictures taken of all of the signs. Who's doing that? Is Yvonne doing that? Were you doing? We got them all?
I think I did.
Okay, all right. Please, would you put them away during the course of this hearing? Again, we're conducting this as if we're in a courtroom. A courtroom would probably have you removed if you had a sign, and we're not going to do that. We don't want you to be removed. I'm going to ask you on a couple of other things, just consistent with the nature of this proceeding. Please do not applaud or make any other public outburst. We intend to treat every person who appears before us with respect and dignity and consideration, and we hope that you will do the same. We may hear diverse viewpoints tonight. We may hear quite a few that are of similar viewpoint, but I don't think it's helpful for us to have public demonstrations. However, I'm going to tell you how we're going to deal with this so that you can make sure that your viewpoint is considered. We will hear from as many people this evening as want to speak, okay? We think that's your First Amendment right to make comments, to address this public body. So if you would like to address the commissioners, we ask that you sign your name to a sheet that's being circulated. That is being circulated by staff of the Office of Consumer Services. They are charged by statute with representing residential customers of utilities in the state. So if you've already signed, I have a sheet. We're going to take it in order of people who signed this sheet, but let's point out who's here. We have Allison Anderson standing at the back. Would you raise your hand? Alex Ware, you can see Alex, Jacob Zachary, and Bella Vastog is right here. So we have 4 staff members. They each can let you sign a sheet, and we'll just take that in order. We also have people who are here remotely, and we'll periodically ask for anybody who's on remotely if they'd like to speak. Now, just a couple of other things before we begin. We're going to work our way through this list in order. However, there are many folks here who are going to have the same perspective, and your comments may be perhaps the same as the person who has spoken before you. So what we're going to do is periodically ask for a raise of hands by those present if they want to join in the comment made by a person who has just spoken. I may not do that for every person who speaks, but I may elect to, on comments that I think may be representative of a larger group, ask if you want to join in that statement that basically would be repetitive of a comment you would make in lieu of speaking, okay? So if we ask for a raise of hands, then what we're going to ask you to do, if you would like to sign your name, these 4 folks that I've indicated will have the name of the person who's spoken, and they will add your name as agreeing with that position, and we'll add that to the public record that you basically ascribe to the very same view that was presented by the person speaking, okay? And so you can sign that sheet, and your name will be recorded in support of that position and placed in the public record. Okay, because of the number of people, yes, go ahead. You can sign it as many times as you like, but I'm probably I'm probably not going to ask after every speaker. I'm going to use my own discretion to identify somebody who I think may represent a viewpoint that I believe would be widely held and you can then sign on that, okay? Now, here's what you may not like, but in the interests of, first of all, do we have people in the overflow room? Do we know, are the overflow rooms? We do not, okay. So I'm going to ask that you hold your comments to 4 minutes if you're an individual. If you're here representing a group who will be speaking on behalf of a group, is there anybody here who's speaking on behalf of a group? Okay. We're going to give you 7 minutes, okay? Maximum 7 minutes, so 4 minutes and 7 minutes. If you're here speaking on behalf of a group, we'd really appreciate it if the group members, if your spokesman articulates your position, I don't think you need to speak as well. The same process will apply. If you're here as representative of if you're the representative of your group speaks and you're here as part of that group and you choose not to speak, if you choose to speak, you can still have your 4 minutes. But if you choose not to speak and want to sign off, I agree with, the Sierra Club or whoever, whoever speaks, whatever group speaks. Does that make sense to everybody? So, you know the people that you need to go see to sign that list, all right? So having said that, are there any questions? We'll be happy to make sure we're all clear on that before we go forward. I want to say again, I really personally appreciate your taking time. Some of you've got off work early. Some of you have been quite concerned about these issues for some period of time. I suspect there are some here in the audience who've already filed comments with the commission. This is a really important part of the process, okay? Our job is to, it's a balancing of interest here. Our job is to set rates which are just and reasonable, and we are trying to do what is in the public interest. And so it's important to hear from as many different folks and different viewpoints, in addition to those who are parties in this case. And so, and we also know that, I said this before, that the Office of Consumer Services, Mr. Moore is here who's representing, he's the attorney for the office, and they do represent. Mr. Moore, would you like to tell folks your statutory responsibility as the office as to who you're representing?
The Office of Commercial Services represents residential consumers, small business consumers, and irrigation consumers. And we represent them, we represent them as an aggregate, not individually, but our statutory duty is to represent the ratepayers' interest, which corresponds to lower rates.
Okay, all right, so you all got that. So I want to make sure clear that there is an advocate for consumers of electrical service, electricity in the state, okay? And that's the Office of Consumer Services. Okay, any other questions or comments before we begin? All right, well first, and if I mispronounce your name, please, you can state it correctly, and I'm going to apologize in advance because I suspect that I'll probably mispronounce a few of these as I'm looking. But we'll first hear from Joe Hirobayashi.
That was perfect.
Thank you. My job here is done.
You could spell your name.
Yes. Yeah. Would you spell it? Yeah, spell your name as we begin. Now, where do we have, who's keeping track of the time? Is that?
I won't be that long.
Okay. Well, Melissa will keep track of the time. And if you hit 4 minutes, I am not going to cut you off in mid-sentence. I know some of you have been present in hearings where that's happened, and it's happened to me, okay? So we're not going to do that. But when you get the signal, please try to wrap up, okay? And you're representing a group?
Yes, I'm Joe Hirobayashi. I'm the Associate State Director of Advocacy for AARP Utah.
Oh, wonderful.
And my last name is spelled Hirabayashi. I'm here to ask you all to please limit the Rocky Mountain Power 18.1% request. Part of our process is making sure that our members are involved in the energy sphere. And as part of that result, we put out a series of mailers to our members. So we sent out several thousand postcards eliciting feedback. And as you can see here, we have over 2,100 of them. These also have comments on them. So I hate to add to your burden, but there are an extra 2,100 comments from concerned Utahns who are worried about the impact that this rate hike would have on them.
We'll be happy to receive those in the record. You can leave them with us if you like.
Absolutely. I also have digital copies if that would be easier, but I figured this is a bit more.
Actually, we prefer digital copies, so.
I'll leave these with you too. I don't really want to take them back to the car.
We can get a visual of that, but.
So these are 2,114 postcards. Here is almost 1,000 petitions as well. You'll have to forgive me, our printer died, so this is only part of them, but I did attach a list of all of the signatures. So as you all may know, since 2021, the cumulative inflation has been about 19.1%. Our members are feeling that greatly. We're getting a lot of comments from members, specifically those who are living on fixed incomes. About 350,000 Utahns are receiving Social Security today, and that average payment is $1,901. As you can see, with an average rent of roughly $1,500 in Salt Lake County, $1,900 in Social Security is not a huge amount. So any kind of increase, especially an 18.1% increase that our members would bear, would have significant challenges on them. Many of these folks are living on fixed incomes. And we do ask that you limit this increase. One thing that we're hearing more and more is property taxes. Everyone that owns a home has to pay property taxes. They also have gas and food and medications. There's countless expenses that are continuing to rise, and this is one where you can't exactly just leave and find a new provider. So we are asking that you do limit this, since 18.1% would be especially challenging during these hard economic times. Thank you.
Thank you, and you've got a couple of thousand folks who agree with your position, and you'll...
I think I read 2 that didn't agree. And I did read every single one of these, so yes.
Noted.
And, they're all nice.
Noted.
I weeded out any that might not be too polite, but they should be good to go.
Okay, well, thank you for that, too. So we'll note that you've provided those documents, and the vast majority, all but 2 that you found, agree with the position that you've just articulated.
Absolutely.
And they're over
2,114.
2,114, okay.
And then an additional 982 petitions.
Okay,
So I think that's over 3,100.
yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll next hear from Turk Funk, is that correct?
Good afternoon. My name is Timothy, but you could call me Turk.
You know what? That's,
I was asked to wear my Christmas hat, and out of deference and respect to you, I'm not going to put it on, but Merry Christmas, everyone.
thank you.
And my name is Tim Funk, and I work at Crossroads Urban Center, 2 blocks from here. We have a person who's going to speak to you in just a little while who can tell you what our situation is there, but it's not good. And what I'd like to do is talk about 3 things. We'd like to talk about the owners of Rocky Mountain Power and the fact that they aren't the people that were here before. I worked here before the Public Service Commission for the Committee of Consumer Services about too long ago to remember. Actually, in the first days of the committee, probably 1980 through 86 or 87. And we did a lot of good work, and we had a lot of good people. And I have to say that your reception to us today is engaging and polite as anything that we had. And we had good commissioners then, but you guys are outstanding. I'm not trying to put a blush on it. It's just good to be here and to see that you're listening. So we have 3 things. Whoops. These are 3 issues from the Salt Lake Tribune Sunday issue. And in it, and I'll leave this for the record, these each have an ad in them.
Could you pass them forward?
Sure.
Would you? That'd be okay?
Yeah, and they're all generally the same. And they're folded to the back page of that insert that you get with the paper. And the insert is for Berkshire Hathaway. And that is, of course, the company that holds the ownership of the 6 western states that Rocky Mountain Power are part of. We want to show you that they and Warren Buffett are part of that ownership. I respect Warren Buffett. I've sent cards to him and letters in his home in Omaha, thanking him, not as generously as I feel towards you, but his company, the company that owns the utility company, is worth, according to an Associated Press article that came out just recently by another man named Funk, so you can find it if you really want to see it. And I couldn't find the damn copy, pardon my expression. But it said that his company is worth $660 or $70 billion. And so for him to ask us for an 18 to 30% increase in rates, I'm not sure what the real figure is here. I don't think he needs my money. I don't think the people I work for and the senior citizens that I work with, I'm 79 years old, and I can't afford this. I mean, I can't afford anything really if you're looking at it in terms of what my composite is. I'm doing okay, and I work and I get paid part-time and all of that because I care about the issues. But what I want to show you is what the impact might be. So that's the first part. The second part is an article that is in Utah Investigative Journalism printout. This is a printout of the article. It's in there. It's recently circulating. I think this is the latest issue they put out. But this is an issue about the Section 8 program in Utah, and that's the Section 8 housing program. That's the individual housing program. It's not the property that the housing authorities own. It's the one that they run, and they give certificates, they give vouchers for. It's a large program, but less than one out of 5 people qualify for the program and get it. So there's an 80% number of the thousands of people. There are only about 20% of the people who are actually getting that program. Why is that of concern to the commission? Because if you live in a place, you pay rent. If you pay rent, you typically pay utilities. Not in these housing projects, but yeah. And this is a really interesting article. They did it. There's a copy for your record.
Yeah,
Copies.
instead of, in the future, this is not a big deal, but instead of giving it to the court reporter, since she's,
Yeah,
give 'em
okay,
to-
give it to you.
yeah.
Thanks. And then if you would pass these out, please. Well, to attorneys, you're an attorney, you're an attorney, you're an attorney. I
We'll
would
pass them out to folks at the council table.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
No,
you.
no. And then the other thing, I mean, you can read through this. I think that first page under the title page gives you a really good summary of what this represents. And there are several things in there. What it gives you is a shot of what's going on in every county in the state according to what it is. Some people in Salt Lake and Utah County wait 5 to 6 years to get this certificate. That is the best.
Your call has gone on longer than allowed. Goodbye.
No,
Okay.
we don't know what that was. That wasn't you.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm told that a lot. This is another public document, or document that is put out to show, again, the need that people have. This is the Utah Housing Profile, and it's a profile about low-income renters. And you know, you can rent at 30%, 40%, 50%, 60, and 80%. And the people who are 80% are typically working. They're policemen, they're teachers, they're firemen, they're people who work at Crossroads Urban Center. We would be moderate compared to to the 80%, I think. But what these show is that depending upon how you want to look at the numbers, that anywhere between 40 and 60,000 people probably can't afford the rent they're paying. In fact, that's what these definitely show. And I think there's 3 there.
Okay, Mr. Funk, you've been about 7 minutes, but please try to wrap it up.
I will be out of your hair and due order. There you go.
Okay.
And these, would you pass those?
Yes, sir.
These show that what we do with housing and the housing crisis that we're in, the affordability crisis that we're in, that the people you're asking to pay more can't pay more. A lot of them aren't even living in their houses anymore. I had 3 people who were going to come today and they couldn't come because of health reasons, but they were going to be here to tell you about their housing for their family and themselves and how difficult it is. Those 3 people are so ill, they called me today and over the weekend and said, first of all, we're a little afraid of doing this, but secondly, we just can't come. It's at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and by then we're pretty well used up. So what I'm trying to depict to you is that the numbers that you just heard about in terms of AERP are real. This is just another demonstration of that, and this rate case couldn't be any more meaningful than any other demand on their limited income. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. Are there other folks here from the Crossroads Urban Center that have made an appearance? Okay, okay, we do have somebody here. If you want to let the folks know from the Office of Consumer Services, if you'd like to sign on to the comments that Mr. Funk makes, you can do so. And the AARP, I didn't mention that because I had 3,200 postcards, but if you want to make add your name to Mr. Hirabashi, I think that's close. Is he? Yeah, he's not here, but you can also sign on that you agree with his comments with the folks from the OCS that are here. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Funk. It sure looked like a R and a K. It didn't look like an M, but thank you, Tim Funk. All right, we have Liz Romney Carroll, is that correct? It is. All right, would you come forward, Ms. Carroll?
I am a certified teacher, retired after 37 years of service in local public school districts. I have also cared for and aided friends and family members, including being a primary caretaker for my completely vision disabled and fragile mother for 20 plus years, all while on a public teacher salary. I have researched and problem solved through my adult years to find and employ options such as property tax abatement, to stretch my household finances in order to support the people I love. Rocky Mountain Power has not presented a detailed, valid argument for their outrageous rate hike proposal. 30%, even in the form of 18% now and the rest by the end of 2025, is absolutely not a fair and reasonable amount for our Utah majority population of hardworking, careful managers of middle and low-income households. To even suggest that such a powerful multi-state utility company needs our hard-earned and saved dollars more than we do is blatant corporate greed. Shame on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. Those are comments that deeply held, and you've put some work into those. Again, I'll make this comment. If you would like to sign on to those comments, let's just make sure we're clear. If you're going to do that in lieu of speaking, if you think your position has been represented, then sign on and you don't need to speak. But that doesn't mean you can't come up and speak if you want to say something similar, okay? I'm not trying to say we're trying to keep anybody from making a comment. But if you think you've heard what you're going to say, Ms. Carroll, just articulate, you can do that in lieu of speaking. Okay, thank you, Ms. Carroll. The next person is Erica Gee. G. Well, that's two out of 4. Ms. G, thank you.
Hello, so I'm Erica G. I work at Crossroads Urban Center, same place as Turk Funk. So
I hope that nickname sticks, okay? It's pretty darn good.
So for those of you who don't know, Crossroads Urban Center is a nonprofit that's been around since 1966 to serve people of low income, people with disabilities, and people of color to help meet their basic needs. We help in a myriad of ways. A lot of that is food, clothing, hygiene, gas vouchers, utility assistance, etc. I am the assistant director of our downtown pantry, and I also run the emergency utility assistance program that Crossroads provides. So I'm here because right now we are seeing clients that are struggling more so than we've ever seen. We've been here since 1966. And within the last couple of years, we are serving people in all of our programs more than we ever have before. I've passed around a little report for evidence that has our numbers year to date. We are serving about 10,000 people a month between our 2 food pantries and about 2,250 at our thrift store each month. These are people who often have just used their dollars to pay their rent or other expenses, including utilities, and now can't afford groceries or clothing for their children who are aging up and growing out of them. We also run a modest utility assistance program that I run. We open the funds the first of every month, and this is where we get people who have shut-off notices for their gas, water, or power and really just don't have the dollars to meet that demand for money of the shut-off notice. So I'm sitting down with people, and we're currently able to serve about 21 households per month with their power bill or what have you. But for every person that I help with up to $200 a month, I am turning away at least 6. So at least 6 households I am turning away per every household that is receiving assistance.
So you're helping 2,100.
We're helping about 21 households per month.
21 households,
Yes,
I'm
if you
sorry.
look at that report under the emergency fund, that's the utility assistance. And then the rest of the report shows little demographic info and what other programs we're helping clients with.
And you're turning away 6 times that.
Indeed, yes.
Okay.
Currently in December, we have already run out of utility assistance. We opened last Monday, and we're already out. So my point here is that this big hike in this proposal is really going to hurt people who are already hurting. We've got a lot of people who are seniors on fixed incomes. We have a lot of families with young children, and they're just not able to make their dollar stretch till the next payday. So this 30% increase or what have you is going to really hurt them even more than they already are right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask one clarifying question?
Yes, please.
Just looking at your table on the top, are those numbers the individual visits, or are they, one family for the entire month? Or just tell me exactly what those numbers in that very first section on the pantries represent.
Yes, they are individual visits. Oh, sorry, no. The numbers on top are the number of families per month.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. G. Okay. And you were speaking on behalf of the Crossroad Urban Center. Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll now turn to Mike McAnch, Ramsmith Ranch. Mr. McAnch, come on up.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Would you
to
please
speak.
spell your last name for the court reporter?
MC, capital A-I-N-S-H.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for this opportunity. I'm a retired senior, and I find it more and more difficult every day to make ends meet. Every time you turn around, it seems like you're getting an increase that you can never afford. I just wanted to say that 30% increase, even if it's going to be divided into 2 parts, is outrageous, especially in a company that is worth over $600 billion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much. Next one is William Fisher. Mr. Fisher, perhaps he signed and agreed with somebody else and is gone. Next is Katie Pappas. Ms. Pappas. Last name is spelled P-A-P-P-A-S.
Correct.
Okay.
Hi. Thank you for providing this opportunity to share our comments today. My name is Katie Pappas. I live in Salt Lake City, and I am a Rocky Mountain Power customer. I'm retired. I'm dependent on Social Security. I wish to go on record in opposition to Rocky Mountain Power's requested rate increase. While reasonable increases would be acceptable for a utility progressing and adapting to current trends, this is not what is happening here. Rocky Mountain Power would have Utah remain dependent on coal-fired power with all its health and environmental consequences, while requiring its customers to recover the costs of damages incurred by their failure to become more environmentally responsible. Without industry-induced climate change from coal-fired power, we wouldn't have so many fires in the first place. These increases will also create financial hardship for many. Were this not a monopoly, better, more forward-thinking options would surely emerge. As our only choice, Rocky Mountain Power should be required to set achievable, specific, climate mitigating goals before further rate increases are approved. Many Rocky Mountain Power customers, myself included, have taken it upon themselves to invest in best practice technologies like home solar and electric vehicles. I expect Rocky Mountain Power to set a standard that causes the least harm possible and protects human health and the environment going forward. Also, the public has not had adequate opportunity to weigh in. Please oppose these unfair, excessive rate hikes and protect the public's interest and the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pappas. Appreciate that. We'll now go to Jeff White. Welcome, Mr. White.
Thank you. My name is Jeff White. I'm here today as a senior citizen who has spent decades contributing to this community, building homes for those in need. I'm one of the many Utahns deeply concerned about Rocky Mountain Power's proposed rate increase. For seniors like myself, these rising costs just aren't numbers on a bill. They represent sacrifices we shouldn't have to make during what should be the most peaceful years of our lives. In a few years, seniors will make up 25% of Utah's population. That means that 1 in 4 of us will be on fixed incomes, balancing rising costs of living with limited resources. The decisions you make today will have a profound impact on our growing portion of our community. Many of us have worked hard all of our lives to help build this state, and now as we walk towards the sunset of our lives, I must ask, is it really necessary that we do so in the dark? Every dollar matters for seniors. Many of us live on Social Security and have carefully budgeted for retirement, but these constant increases on food, housing, and health care, and now electricity force heartbreaking choices. Some of my neighbors are already skipping meals or cutting back on medications to stay afloat. Adding a higher electric bill will only make it harder to get by. Electricity isn't a luxury for seniors, it's a necessity. Heating, air conditioning, and medical devices are all vital to our health and safety. No one should have to choose between staying safe and staying within their budget, especially on a state that prides itself on taking care of its people. I understand the need to maintain the energy grid and transition to cleaner energy, but Rocky Mountain Power is a highly profitable company. Shouldn't they shoulder more of the burden? Asking seniors and vulnerable populations to foot the bill is simply unfair. We need solutions that balance corporate responsibility with community needs. Seniors have seen challenges overcome and progress made when people work together, but we also know when to stand up and say, this isn't right. I urge you to reject this rate increase or ensure it doesn't disproportionately harm seniors and those of us on fixed income. Let us walk into the sunset with dignity and security, not into the dark. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. I'm not going to say this after very many more folks speak, but Ms. Pappas and Mr. White articulated their viewpoint. I think they prepared and articulated their viewpoint quite well. And if, again, if any of you want to sign on to that and ascribe in lieu of speaking, please do so. But again, we're going to expect a lot of other very articulate comments as well. So you're all welcome to speak if you'd like. I'm just giving you that as an option. The next one is Catherine Kane. You know, it looks like an I to me, but it's K-A-R-R, correct? I-R. K, oh, well, care. K-A-I-R.
Yes. So, my name is Catherine Kerr, and I live in Sandy, Utah, and I am a Rocky Mountain Power ratepayer. Gentlemen of the Commission, I'd like to begin by thanking you for your time, and more importantly, your vote, ensuring that my business, Rocky Mountain Power, Utah's premier energy provider, continues to thrive at the expense of, in the service of hardworking families in this great state, Utah. Now, let's talk numbers, my favorite topic. Yes, Utahns were a bit shocked when we initially proposed a modest 30% rate increase, and sure, we scaled it back to 18% after some public grumbling. But the beauty of this plan is that we're still going to get the 30%, just in creative little slices and through a few clever dockets. It's like a financial jigsaw puzzle where every piece fits perfectly into my wallet. You see, while customers are busy celebrating their so-called victory over reduced rate hikes, we've quietly set up other mechanisms to ensure we recover every penny and then some. Take our energy balancing account, for example. It's a magical little tool that lets us charge ratepayers more whenever coal, gas, or other expenses spike. And let's not forget la pièce de résistance, the Wildfire Liability Fund. Thanks to our friends at the Utah Legislature, we will also have a $1 billion safety net funded entirely by Utahns, of course, to cover the fallout of our, shall we say, incendiary history causing wildfires. Insurance premiums skyrocketing because of our negligence in Oregon? No problem. Just take another $62 a month from the Utah customers. Problem solved. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but Mr. Monopoly, isn't all this reliance on fossil fuels causing climate disaster? Wildfires? Rising costs? Hardships for your customers? And to that I say, get real. Those are the costs of doing business in energy. Investing in clean energy might save customers money and our climate and our world, but where's the fun in that? In conclusion, I'd like to remind the Commission of its sacred duty to maintain the status quo, raising utility rates for my empire. Thank you, and don't forget to improve every last cent of this rate hike.
We can appreciate satire when we hear it. I just have to, I have to compliment you on your costume. I think that was showed a great deal of creativity. So thank you for that. It'll be very memorable. I'll remember this on my deathbed. It was wonderful. Okay, next we'll hear from Hunter Warren.
Thank you. Oh, that's louder than I expected. I'm sorry, I'm going to be reading off my phone. I prefer paper, but I wasn't expecting to speak when I came today, and so this is very last minute. So
It's not a problem.
thank you for your time. My name is Hunter. I live in Cottonwood Heights, and because I have no other choice, I am a Rocky Mountain customer. Rocky Mountain Power customer. I ask you as members of the Public Service Commission to oppose Rocky Mountain Power's rate hike. I grew up in Northwest Indiana in the shadow of a dying rust-built steel mill. As a kid, I pestered my mom to take us down the road to Lake Michigan, and on the days where I bugged her enough to get my wish, we would regularly have to go home because of the toxins the steel mills were dumping into the lake. As I got older, I got into photography. The gorgeous photos of sunsets over the lake were marred by the knowledge that the brilliant hues were a result of the poison that the steel mills were churning into our air. I had a number of friends and family die young due to lung cancer. Imagine my surprise when I moved out to our beautiful state of Utah, only to find out that Salt Lake County's air quality is worse than that of Indiana. Since moving to Utah, I've fallen in love not only with the gorgeous natural landscapes, but also with the community. I've been working in nonprofits for the past few years because I wanted to serve that community, but I wanted to take a more direct route. And so in early 2025, I will be enrolling in one of the local fire academies and joining the fire service. I have friends and family that are...
That's a noble thing to do, just
Thank you.
note that.
I have friends and family that are already in the fire service, both municipal and wildfire. I can't imagine the frustration they have and that I too will have at the notion of putting our lives on the line to travel out of state to put out these wildfires, caused in no small part by the pollution created by these coal plants, only to return home to see a 30%, or sorry, 18% for now, they're going to get the other 12% in a new creative way, surcharge on my monthly bill to make sure that Berkshire Hathaway's shareholders get a nice fat dividend. I want to dedicate my life to public service to protect my community, while Rocky Mountain Power is trying to squeeze every last penny out of us while pumping poison into our air and creating a positive feedback loop on these wildfire pollution. Thank you, and I urge you again to oppose this rate hike.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Warren. Next is Chris. I can't tell if that's an A or a U. Branty or Brunty?
It's me, Brunty.
Okay. Ms. Brunty, thank you. Brunty, is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Thanks for letting me come and say a few words to you. I think I would like to just let Hunter and Ms. Pathis and Mr. White speak for me, but I wrote out a few things, so I'll be brief.
That's perfectly fine.
Is that okay? Thank you.
Sure, absolutely, we want to hear from
And
you.
I appreciate, Mr. Fenn, your warm welcome to all of us. It's great to be an American in a setting like this. I am grateful and proud because this is the kind of public discourse that everyone should have access to. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm a customer of Rocky Mountain Power, and as a member of this community, I would just like to say that being aware of this meeting and becoming prepared, I'm sort of shocked that I haven't done more earlier. Clean energy sources like wind and solar do not require fuel that have volatile price changes, and this is the way forward for Utah. Coal is antiquated, and as Utahns, we pride ourselves on being innovative. And I would like to say that as a solar panel owner, I've heard feedback from my neighbors that because of Rocky Mountain Power's policies, they have no incentive to do what we have done in our household. The return on investment for that is low, and Rocky Mountain Power is making sure that that is the case. And that's not being innovative. So I'd like to just say that I hope that you will not approve this increase that Rocky Mountain Power is seeking. I don't think it's good for Utahns. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bronte. Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Emma Verhame or Verham? Verhame. Go with your gut, right? Go with your first impression. Your last name is spelled Verhame.
That's right.
Okay. I'm going to give the court reporter a little help so you don't have to do that.
Thanks. My name is Emma Verhame. I'm a resident of Salt Lake City, and I'm a Rocky Mountain Power customer. I'm here today to ask you to reject Rocky Mountain Power's proposed rate hikes. My biggest concern with this rate hike is that climate change is a big issue here, and I'm concerned about the air quality here from wildfire smoke, and I'm concerned about the Great Salt Lake. When me and my husband bought our first house here 2 years ago, we made a bet that the people in power in Utah would make some good decisions for our future and put our interests first, and not the interest of the big corporations. I'm worried that with this rate hike, the cost of coal and the cost of the carbon emissions are being put back on the ratepayer. Coal is getting expensive, and the company that wants to burn that coal should have to pay that price, not the people who already have to breathe in the emissions from it. So thank you for your time, and again, I ask you to reject Rocky Mountain's proposed rate hikes.
Thank you, Ms.
Thanks.
Verhame. Can I just ask a question? I noticed several of you have been wearing a red shirt that says "Later is too late." Are there others who have those shirts on? Could you just stand up for a second? It's like, I don't know if there's someone who would like to, in the back says "No more coal." Is that what it says on everybody's back? Okay. You haven't been turning your back to me, so I didn't see that. So I don't know if there's somebody who's responsible for the T-shirts or the shirts who's still going to speak. I'd like to hear a little bit about that. If somebody could do that when they give their comments, would that be possible? Or okay, so we have somebody who's on the list to do that. Thank you, Ms. Verhame. Thank you. All right, the next person is Val J. Rigby, who's here speaking on behalf of the Utah Farm Bureau Federation. Welcome, Mr. Rigby.
Good evening. My name is Val J. Rigby. I'm the president of the Utah Farm Bureau Federation, representing 36,000 member families throughout the state of Utah. I'm also a farmer and rancher. I have some prepared remarks so that I know we don't have official testimony, but so I don't forget some of the points. So I'd like to read those to you now.
Please, that'd be appropriate.
The Utah Farm Bureau is deeply concerned about Rocky Mountain Power's proposed rate increase. While we acknowledge the need for energy infrastructure improvements and maintenance, this substantial hike poses a significant threat to Utah's agricultural sector, and by extension, our state's economy and food security. The proposed rate increase of 17.4% for irrigation customers is particularly alarming. Electricity and fuel, energy, are crucial input costs for agriculture, accounting for approximately 15% of U.S. agricultural production expenses. Such a drastic increase in electricity costs could lead to higher food security or higher food prices and potential job losses in our sector. Affecting Utah's economy as a whole, it's important to note that energy costs are one of the most significant elements contributing to food price inflation, directly impacting consumers across Utah. Interesting note is over the past 25 years, Utah has lost 30% of its irrigated cropland, dropping from 1.2 million acres in 1997 to just over 850,000 acres in 2022. This proposed rate hike could accelerate this troubling trend, jeopardizing our state's agricultural heritage and food security. Specifically, we urge the Commission to, 1, carefully scrutinize Rocky Mountain Power's rate request, approving only investments and costs that are core to providing electric service to Utah's customers. We ask you not to approve unreasonable profits for the utility, as excessively high electric rates negatively impact the profitability of farms and ranches and many other businesses in Utah. Number 2, reevaluate the energy balancing account to maintain efficiency incentives for Rocky Mountain Power while ensuring that risks are not inappropriately shifted from the utility to its customers. Number 3, adopt the recommendation made by the Office of Consumer Services witness Ron Nelson to remove discriminatory elements from the proposed irrigation rates. Rocky Mountain Power's proposal to extend on-peak pricing for irrigation to all days, including weekends and holidays, is unjustified and violates basic rate design principles. This approach unfairly penalizes irrigation customers by basing pricing on usage patterns rather than actual cost causation, without demonstrating significant peak periods on these additional days. We ask that on-peak periods remain only on weekdays, excluding holidays, unless Rocky Mountain Power can prove significant cost-causing peaks occur on other days for irrigation customers. I would also like to note that Utah Farm Bureau Federation submitted more comprehensive written comments to the Commission on December 6, 2024, detailing our concerns and recommendations. In conclusion, we urge you to consider the far-reaching implications of this rate case on Utah's agriculture community and our state's economy. The Utah Farm Bureau Federation trusts that you will make a decision that balances the needs of the utility with the interests of consumers and our vital agricultural sector. Thank you for your time and consideration. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Rigby. So would you like to have those comments put in the record? Or do you think the comments you submitted on December 6th, those are subsumed within those comments?
Yeah, everything, all these points are in those more comprehensive comments, so
Okay.
These are just a summary.
I apologize, I haven't reviewed those yet. So.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, but we will. Thank you, Mr. Rigby. And I will just say, we do have on the commission website, we've been, as I've indicated at the beginning, we've taken hundreds of comments. If you would like to send another email with your written, it's on. I like to lean back. So if you want to, the comments that have been made today that are written out, if you want to put them on the commission website, there is an avenue you can do so. You can submit those on the commission website. You don't have to, but you're certainly welcome to. Okay, we next have Monica Hilding. Last name is spelled Hilding.
That's correct.
Thank you, Ms. Hilding.
As a resident of, well, thank you for the opportunity to speak and listening to all of us make our comments.
You're certainly welcome. And don't be nervous, it's just fine.
I'm a resident of Salt Lake City and a consumer of Rocky Mountain Power, and I'm deeply opposed to the proposed rate hikes. The notion that hardworking families should shoulder such an immense financial burden, especially in a time when many are already struggling to make ends meet, is unconscionable. A monopoly like Rocky Mountain Power has a responsibility to provide affordable, reliable energy, not to prioritize shareholder profits at the expense of its consumers. This price hike would disproportionately harm low and middle income families and further entrench inequality in our state. I urge you to reject this unjustified rate increase and hold Rocky Mountain Power accountable for their actions. Let's put the well-being of Utah's residents ahead of corporate bonuses. Rocky Mountain Power has been maintaining above average profit margins for over 10 years straight, from 31 to 52%. If cheaper and more efficient methods of generation are available, why should I pay for a company to use the most expensive method? Also, the fact that Rocky Mountain Power is paying more for wildfire insurance is nobody's fault but their own. They lost a court case in Oregon to the tune of $200 million damages paid by the defendant, Rocky Mountain Power. This company seems to be running astray since the Berkshire Hathaway acquisition. We have no choice but to use Rocky Mountain Power as our provider. They are in a powerful, monopolistic position. This request for an enormous rate hike is greedy, and the citizens of Utah should not be forced to accept it. This rate hike will affect low-income people the most, who depend on electricity to heat and cool their homes, to cook, and to exist. Utilities are necessary, Utility companies should not be raking in billions at the expense of people who depend on them to live their lives. Rocky Mountain Power is not solely to blame. The Utah legislature passed a bill, Senate Bill 224, giving Rocky Mountain Power an additional ratepayer funded cushion against in-state wildfire liability earlier this year. This creates a Utah Fire Fund that could raise monthly bills by nearly 5%, as it establishes a $1 billion fund for Rocky Mountain and Pacific Core. Rocky Mountain Power is a for-profit company focused on its need to be profitable for shareholders. It has no competition in Utah to keep costs down. Rocky Mountain's announcement this year to pivot away from renewables and toward coal for 18 more years is shocking, unsustainable, and expensive. Obtaining electricity from burning coal also contributes to the very problems, wildfires, insurance, that Rocky Mountain Power is saying it needs more money for. Rocky Mountain Power should be required to shift away from its reliance on fossil fuels because the social, economic, and environmental costs of climate change continue to rise. Please limit Rocky Mountain Power's rate hike on customers. The requested rate increase is driven primarily by increased net power costs and increased wildfire liability insurance premiums. These costs are directly tied to Rocky Mountain Power's heavy reliance on coal and gas, which have notoriously volatile fuel costs. Utah is home to abundant, low-cost, clean energy resources, including solar and geothermal. In fact, Rocky Mountain Power canceled its purchase of new, cheaper, clean energy resources, even though those renewable resources could have helped reduce the reliance not only on costly coal and gas plants, but on more expensive purchases from the energy market. The result of Rocky Mountain Power's lack of foresight is increasing energy costs. The Commission must make clear that the utility's decision-making must prioritize its customers, not its shareholders. The Commission should reduce Rocky Mountain Power's requested cost reimbursements, requiring Rocky Mountain Power to take responsibility for its decisions. Additionally, the Commission should make clear that Rocky Mountain Power's resource planning must prioritize reliable, low-cost resources, especially solar, wind, geothermal, and energy storage. Unless this Commission steps up to say no, Rocky Mountain Power will go on to reap profits for shareholders at the direct financial expense of Utahns and the irreversible expense of our environment. It is an appalling demonstration of greed and short-sightedness. Thank you.
Ms. Hilding, I want to apologize for my perception that you were nervous when you came up here. You stated your position, I think, quite clearly, and we appreciate that. Thank you. All right. I've got next Alyssa Chamberlain. Ms. Chamberlain, you're going to tell us about the shirt too, right? Did I see you raise your hand on that? Okay, great. Is it spelled Chamberlain? Okay, thank you.
I'll talk about the shirts after.
Sure, however you'd like to handle it.
Okay, so first off, I oppose the rate hike. My name is Alyssa Chamberlain from Orem, Utah. I have lived in Utah my whole life, and I've been paying Rocky Mountain Power for my utilities for 13 of those years. I'm 31, if you want to do the math. I'm here today to ask the Public Service Commission to reject Rocky Mountain Power's proposed rate hike on Utah ratepayers. I've been to the Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting in Omaha, Nebraska, and I saw and heard in person how they talked about their money and how smart they think they are for acquiring said money. And I saw and heard them shut down anything to do with dealing with climate change. They disregarded any suggestions to change. They practically said that they care more about their money than the harms that they are causing, harms including the environment and human health. I talked in person with Jalen Spann, who later spoke in the shareholder meeting about an environmental proposal, which, along with a disclosure proposal and safety proposal, were denied. I have seen again and again how they care more about money than the environment, profit over planet. So for Rocky Mountain Power to add a 30% rate hike in the first place is absurd. For them to lower it down to 18% is still not okay. But for them to go and try to make back that 30% plus some in other ways, that's deceitful, slimy, and disgusting. And to add the cherry on top, not only are they trying to get us to pay more without us realizing it, but they're trying to get us to pay for their mistakes. They're trying to get us to pay for the fires they caused and will continue to cause in the future. They're trying to get us to pay for their coal-burning power plants, which we have continually asked them to shut down, or at least reduce pollution to. But they are continuing to contribute to climate change, destroying our lungs and the environment, and yet they have the audacity to try to get us to pay more for them to continue to do so. This is absurd and needs to stop. I'm already struggling with paying bills, and I can't afford to be paying for RMP's increased net power costs and increased wildfire liability insurance. They should be paying for that, not me. They're the ones who refuse to switch to clean, renewable, sustainable energy sources. They're the ones who continue to burn coal. I should not have to pay for their lack of morals. This needs to stop. Later is too late. We need to start acting now. Please reject this rate hike.
Thank you.
That's that.
Ms. Chamberlain, you want to say any more about the shirts?
Yeah, so when I went to Berkshire Hathaway, I met up with other environmental groups, and we had these shirts because Berkshire Hathaway's over everything. But they're over Iowa too, and so I met up with like Nebraska and Iowa people, and we were opposing the coal burning plants that they're burning out there too. So
Okay.
So yeah, we were able to get shirts from that.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Next is Luis Miranda, who's representing the Sierra Club. Spelled Miranda. Is that correct?
That is correct. As they would say, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say or do may be used against you in the court of law. Miranda rights. It's good to be here.
You
Thank
get that
so
all
much.
the time, don't you?
I should get it a little bit more often, honestly, but
You don't hang out with enough policemen, that's why.
that's probably it. All right, yeah. So my name is Luis. Give me just a moment here.
While you're looking that up, are there
Please.
other folks here with the Sierra Club this evening? Do you know? Anybody else here with the Sierra Club? Any?
Probably, yeah. Folks
Okay.
with Sierra Club. Maybe even you are members of Sierra Club. I don't know. So.
Maybe. All right, continue.
Cool. Yeah. Does this sound okay?
Yes, it's
Is
fine.
it loud? Okay. Good. So yeah, my name is Luis Miranda. I am a senior campaign organizer with the Sierra Club. I work specifically on questions of just transition from the Sierra Club on issues of just transition, transitioning from just transition. Yeah. Thank you for making sure it's right. And yeah, I represent an organization that here in the state we have over 20,000 members and supporters. And I believe you've seen, in fact, on the docket, you've had over 440 comments have been submitted by members and supporters on this issue of the rate case. So overwhelmingly, as an organization, our members are opposed to the rate case that we're talking about, the proposed rate hike. We can see through what it feels like deceitfulness in terms of like how this gets presented in a way that the public isn't really aware of what we feel is really going on around the increase of these rates. We think it's important that we are an environmental organization, but economics are profoundly tied with everything we do as well, right? Currently, if you live in Carbon County or if you live in Emery County, the average income is under $30,000 a year. And so it's not as if the economics of coal are bringing that much benefit to the actual population. Does it bring jobs? Yes, but so does clean energy. The Inflation Reduction Act, in fact, is bringing a lot of money that has been coming up from taxpayer dollars to support states like ours to be able to build new clean energy. And I think our big point here at Sierra Club is that we feel that the rate hikes are really unfairly burdening Utah ratepayers and are also demonstrating an over-reliance on fossil fuels that actually will harm ratepayers in the long term and also our environment. I think the economics and the environment are really here in agreement that staying on coal is going to be expensive. The cost of the coal that goes into Hunter and Huntington are very, very expensive. Currently, unsubsidized, the energy production of kilowatt per hour in the United States is still less than half of the cost of coal in kilowatt per hour. And so I want to just submit to you here, even beyond that, the economics of it. Like, I'm just thinking for myself and for my family. I don't come from the environmental movement. I come from working with immigrant communities. My mother is almost 70. 3 years ago, she fell, she broke her arm, and had multiple fractures. She does not have health insurance. She does not have a retirement fund. So she really relies on people like myself that just work at a nonprofit. I don't get that much money, you know. I don't have this fancy energy job. This isn't an economic incentive for me to be in this. But at the same time, I have to support her, right? And I have to also pay for my own electricity bill. We should not have to be putting this pressure on our Utah customers when there's a choice here that I think you can support, namely that if we're going to do any sort of this conversation of rate increases, that it comes coupled with how do we also purchase and secure more economic and affordable sources of energy. And so that's what we want to just bring up to you here today. Beyond that, we know that this is the one public witness hearing that we have, but we would love for there to be other opportunities in the near future for the public to engage, particularly if something happens with this rate case where you do some kind of rearrangement. Because the way that it's split is still conveys to the public that actually the rate hike is going to be less than it actually is going to be. We estimate that it could be up to $24.14 per person, per household per month, just taking that from an average of all the Rocky Mountain Power customers. If you ask the average Utahn right now, like, what would you do with $24? What would you do, right? This is a big decision, and we feel like the public needs to be engaged here. And I'm really encouraged by the warmth and the openness with which you welcomed everybody here. I think this would only do better for trust in the Public Service Commission and for accountability for all the intervening parties in this process. So on behalf of the Sierra Club, we just want to say that we oppose this rate hike. We look forward for more opportunities to be able to build clean energy and also for the public to be engaged. Thank you.
Mr. Miranda, thank
Yes,
you.
please.
Can you estimate how many members of the Sierra Club there are in Utah? Do you know that?
It's about 20,000 members and supporters right
Is
now.
that what you said? I missed that, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
20,000 members. I hope your mother recovers from her injury.
Me too.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. It looks like his first name is Sarah Johnson. Is that correct? And you're here on behalf of UPHE, is that right? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for hearing me. I am Dr. Sarah Johnson, and I am here with the Utah Physician for Healthy Environment. We are here to absolutely oppose the rate hikes of Rocky Mountain Power. Everyone has done a great job here already explaining the myriad of reasons why we are opposed to this. I'm just here to reiterate and directly link the public health implications of the rate hike in that the proposal is no longer putting renewable sources to the front. It is putting the fossil fuel usage and coal usage to the front, which we all know have such adverse health effects for us in the downturn of that with heart disease, lung disease, and other adverse health consequences. So I'm just here to be on the record that we are absolutely in opposition of this rate hike for those reasons.
Thank you. I'm familiar with the other organizations that have had representatives speak. Would you just tell me a little bit more about Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment?
Oh, sure. We are a nonprofit that's been in existence, I want to say, about 12 years. And our mission is to just address things that we find in our state of Utah that are adverse, environmental, impactful issues that have long-term health consequences. So air quality, the shrinking of the Great Salt Lake. We took on the Diesel brothers. I mean, things of this nature.
And so are your members primarily physicians?
They are primarily physicians, but we do still have board members who are non-physicians and members who are non-physicians.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Appreciate that. Thank you for your comments. It looks like we also have somebody else here who is from UPHE. I think it's Courtney Henley. Is that correct?
Yeah. Hi.
Henley.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm glad my handwriting was clear enough.
Well,
some issues tonight.
I've been deciphering quite a bit here.
You're doing a good job.
It was one of the better ones, I should say.
So I'm Dr. Courtney Henley. Hi, Dr. Johnson. I knew about this through Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment, but thought I'd be working. But I got off early and rode my bicycle down here. Thank you, commissioners and Chair Commissioner. It is such a luxury to have 4 minutes, maybe 7, maybe a little extra after I'm sure all of us have given testimony up at the state capitol and you get cut off at 2 minutes. So
I've been there. So I want to be considerate of giving you an opportunity to say what you want to say. So
yeah, thank you so much. I just want to reiterate, I support what everyone has said about the burden of the cost of this increase. I do want to reiterate Dr. Johnson's concerns about the health effects. So Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment has been around for about 20 years. Our mission is to advocate for the health of all Utah residents by promoting and supporting measurable improvements to our environment. And one of the things I've discovered being with UPHE for 20 years and being a physician that works with patients every day, I'm an anesthesiologist, so I see patients when they're at their last resort. They need surgery to fix their problem. And I'm thinking of like cancers and heart surgeries and lung surgeries, and that really all of these negative health experiences that people have are caused by pollution in our environment. The pollution that we breathe, the pollution that we drink, the pollution that we can absorb through our skin. And so what makes me the most sad about Rocky Mountain Power at this point in time is that they have a monopoly on my business as an energy user. And I don't see them as a community partner that wants to help improve the lives and well-being of our community, because it's very clear, especially to physicians in the health community, we got to clean up our air. And you don't even have to be, you don't have to open your eyes to know here in Salt Lake City these past few days. All you got to do is take a breath in, and you can tell that we got some polluted air problems. And so for our big energy provider to be embracing fossil fuel combustion, which is the source of so much pollution, at the expense of pursuing cleaner energy sources, is really disappointing when they kind of have our hands tied behind our back. And then to just, that's from a UPHE position. And then just as a resident of Salt Lake City, I go to my community council meetings, and Rocky Mountain Power, they're a good business. They send nice people to our meetings. They have a project going on in my neighborhood where they've destroyed some parks and some trails, and we're all really sad, and they're really being sympathetic and empathetic. But I think it was a little bit like first they tore everything up, and then they kind of came and asked for forgiveness instead of permission. And then I can't shake, we have a new development going in. It's like 60 new units. The neighborhood was against it, as you can imagine. And it's like at that very same time, Rocky Mountain Power is upgrading all of the power lines in that area that end at that new development. And I just, I look at my energy bill and I'm just wondering, where does the cost, there's so much development going on in Utah. There has to be so much electricity needs. And I wonder, where does that money come from? It's not a very transparent process. And just to kind of wrap up my thoughts of something actionable other than asking for a better community partner on all these levels that people have talked about from Rocky Mountain Power is if there is some rate hike or change in things, as someone who's invested in solar panels, I have 24 solar panels on my house, and I was looking at my bill today, and my meter multiplier for my solar generation is 1, which is the same meter multiplier you get when you use coal burned energy use from Rocky Mountain Power. So that would just be like a little gesture that they could make to the people that have invested a lot of time and energy and knowledge into generation, solar power generation on the home, is maybe that meter multiplier could be 1.1 or 1.2. Maybe they could incentivize renewable energy sources, and that would build up more movement in the community through, the city, we're paying, a municipal tax and a Utah state sales tax. So maybe all of these interests could work together to make renewable energy more of a goal for the community and for Rocky Mountain Power. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henley. Thank you very much. We will next hear from Stan Holmes, who is representing UCare. Last name is spelled Holme. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you need a break? Or are you okay?
I was thinking I thought I had a break, take off my.
Just, okay, all right, sure.
You can spell it now.
Holmes, correct.
Right, just like Larry or Sherlock. Yeah. So, Stan Holmes, and I'm here representing Utah Citizens Advocating Renewable Energy, or UCare. All volunteer. We formed 10 years ago, in 2014, when Rocky Mountain Power went after rooftop solar, tried to slap a surcharge on its rooftop solar customers. So we've been around for a while, and I'd like to thank you for affording the public an opportunity to present comments live in this great, the general rate case, GRC Phase 1 hearing. All Utahns, ratepayers and taxpayers alike, will be impacted by the outcome of this pivotal rate case. That said, I request that you also schedule public hearings on January 15th and March 25th for live public comments on the Phase 2 and Phase 3 proceedings. As suggested in this morning's hearing, new issues and information revealed during the Phase 2 and Phase 3 proceedings could impact future public comments and the Commission's ultimate decision in this case.
We'll consider that.
Well, thank you.
Holmes, thank you. I think that we'll talk about that as a commission and make a decision on that.
Okay.
But thank you for raising that. That's the first that we've had a request to do that.
Okay. Sounds good. Turning to the scope and quality of public comments, I am concerned that so much relevant information is hidden from the public in these proceedings. In this docket alone, over 40 entries from Rocky Mountain Power are marked confidential. Items held secret include testimony and exhibits from Rocky Mountain Power experts. Parties must sign a confidentiality agreement, an NDA of sorts, to gain access to that information. And if those signatories use that information in their own GRC inputs, it too becomes confidential. So Rocky Mountain Power, PacifiCorp, not only exercises a monopoly on electricity in Utah, but also a monopoly control over the flow of information. Without competition in Utah, what does our monopoly utility have to hide in this rate case? Also wonder who wields the yellow confidentially highlighter. Is it Rocky Mountain Power itself? And of course, what criteria are being used to block the public's easy access to information? I request that the Commission review how the confidentiality function under Utah Admin Code R746-1-603 is being applied in this GRC, and whether the public's best interests might be better served by more transparency and easy access. Lastly, I point to the relationship between Rocky Mountain Power's Utah ratepayers and its corporate owners. As you know, Rocky Mountain Power and PacifiCorp are business entities that are part of the Berkshire Hathaway corporate system led by CEO Warren Buffett. At the annual shareholders meeting this past May, several shareholders offered 3 proposals that would, 1, reduce Berkshire's climate-related financial risk by reducing its investments in high greenhouse gas emission, GHG, activities, Rocky Mountain Power's coal burners, for example. 2, to fully disclose its GHG emissions and progress toward decarbonization. And the 3rd proposal, initiate an audited report of how a potential move toward the International Energy Agency's Net Zero 2050 roadmap might impact Berkshire Hathaway energy assets and investments. And I do have a copy of the report or of the proxy statement where these proposals appear.
We'll make sure that's in the record.
Thank you. Well, the Buffett family, of course, dominates the corporate board and urged shareholders to vote against all of these proposals, which they did, as Alyssa pointed out earlier. The clean energy proposals failed this year as they did last year. The Berkshire hierarchy and corporate shareholders don't care about clean energy for Utah or the worsening climate change related impacts that we endure. We are a coal industry, corporate industry expendables. This remains reflected in Rocky Mountain Power's energy mix, roughly 45% coal, 35% natural gas or methane, and barely 20% clean. 10 years ago, Rocky Mountain Power complained of cost shifting as it sought a punitive surcharge on its rooftop solar customers. Thankfully, the PSC voted 2-1 to block that surcharge, and we remain very highly appreciative. While Rocky Mountain Power still tries to keep its monopoly thumb on clean energy, I asked the Commission to look at cost shifting of another sort. The years-long cost shifting from Berkshire Hathaway shareholders to Rocky Mountain Power's Utah ratepayers. That shareholders meeting in Omaha that decides annually what ratepayers in Utah shall suffer and pay is not fair, affordable, sustainable, or prudent for our state and its residents. I asked the Commission to focus on what's best for the ratepayers who looked to you for regulatory justice. May justice be served by the PSC in this rate case. And as you may have surmised, you care, which is that you deny Rocky Mountain Power's proposed rate increases. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Appreciate that. We will next hear from Piper Christian, who represents Stewardship Utah. She had to leave, you say? Yeah. Okay, all right. All right, the next one is Maya Hernandez, representing UNCE. Ms. Hernandez. Hernandez.
Yeah.
Would you tell us, I'm sorry that I'm not recognizing the acronym.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I'm a volunteer with Utah Needs Clean Energy.
Utah Needs Clean Energy. Okay, thank you.
And thank you again all for your time. If it's okay, I'll be reading from my phone.
No problem.
I have to write it on paper. Hello, my name is Maya and I live in Liberty Wells. I've been living in Utah for over 5 years and fell in love with the state within days of moving here. As a Utah taxpayer and Rocky Mountain Power customer, it is incredibly frustrating to hear that Rocky Mountain Power is wanting to increase rates without sufficient plans to mitigate its emissions with transitions to renewable energy. The increased cost of rate increases not only burdens Utahns financially by way of higher utility costs, but the company continues to contribute to our increased risk of climate-related disaster by way of wildfires as well. I love the outdoors, I love the mountains, as I'm sure many of us feel similarly. We see record poor air quality and wildfires depending on what time of year you're in. It feels like our access to the state's outdoors become more limited every year. What price do you put on access to clean air? What price do you put on our state's outdoors? Which, if you want to put a price on, is tied to the multi-billion economic value of tourism to our state, like from our national parks and skiing, which become increasingly less appealing as we make national headlines for how severely we're being affected by climate change. Knowing that the rate increase would both burden Utahns financially now and long-term with our health and increased risk of climate disaster, it's a really tough deal we're being dealt. Frankly, the rate increase is both greedy and irresponsible. I hope that the Public Service Commission opposes this rate increase and names it for what it is, which is a self-interested attempt by Rocky Mountain Power to milk Utah tax and ratepayers for as much as they can without any care for the deleterious impact on the state's economy or on individual financial or physical well-being. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez, appreciate that. We next have Michael Larson. Spelled Larson.
Okay, I'm Michael Larson. I'm the president of the UACD, which is the Utah Association of Conservation Districts. And a lot of what I would cover was probably covered by the Farm Bureau, but I'm going to come at this a little bit different.
Sure.
Not only does it affect farmers and ranchers' ability to make a living and their very income and existence and the food security of the state, but we work with farmers and ranchers to do voluntary conservation on their lands. And if they can't make a profit, they definitely can't afford to do conservation. And so it's not just affecting agriculture, but it's affecting what they can do on their land to conserve natural resources. The supervisors in the state are tasked in their district of covering every natural resource in that district. There's 38 districts, and there's 5 supervisors in each district, so there's 190 supervisors throughout the state, every corner of the state. One of our big things is to say we've got somebody that knows every inch of the ground in the state, and if we don't know, we can find somebody. And so to add this extra amount to their farm rates, and especially their irrigation rates, their pump rates, is really going to affect what farmers and ranchers will do conservation-wise. And we aren't a regulatory, we're just a non-regulatory association. Basically, we're the association of the districts. And all of those districts were set up after that Dust Bowl. They exist throughout the whole United States. And so some places they're called water and soil conservation districts. In our state, they're just conservation districts. In our state, we actually are under the Utah Department of Ag and Food, and we are kind of a weird classification of a special service district, but we are a special service district. And we at least have one district in every county, and many counties have more than one. That's why there's 38. But that's just something in addition to what the Farm Bureau said. I agree with everything they said, and it's important, but also it's going to end conservation on these lands because they're just not going to have the money to do it. And we try to help with everything we can, grants and everything else, but there's always a certain percentage that the rancher, the farmer, has to contribute to do these projects. And they are voluntary projects, so if they don't want to do them, it's not going to happen. But we've made a lot of progress, and I would hate to see that go backwards, and so we oppose especially the rate increase on irrigation, but power in general. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Appreciate your comments. Are there any other, do I have another sheet? I have, the folks from the office still here. Are there other sheets? I have. Okay, before, I'm going to ask if there's anybody else present, but before who wants to make a comment, but before we do so, let's see if we have people who are on line or telephonically or otherwise. Melissa, do you see anybody who would like to make a comment? How do we inquire of those folks? If they can hear me, I assume, and will you unmute them if somebody wants to speak, or there's nobody on?
You do your best.
You do your best, and that's what you get. Okay, before we adjourn, is there anybody else who has not signed? I don't want to.
I signed up and I haven't been called for William Fisher.
I think I did call you, but I did call you at one point in time. You maybe didn't hear. It's possible you didn't hear me. You're here on behalf of.
Mainly myself. I'm a member of the Sierra Club.
Okay, please come up, Mr. Fisher. I'm sorry that we missed you earlier.
I'm a little hard of hearing because I don't have my hearing aids in, but I was able to hear everybody else. Hello, I'm William, more commonly go by Bill Fisher, and I'm as an apartment, I pay my own utilities, and I'm a senior citizen and on a fixed income. So a 30% rate increase or even an 18% would be a significant having a significant impact on me. But I'm going to take a different approach from almost everybody else here tonight. And I'm not going to knock Rocky Mountain Power because I don't think they're the biggest ones to blame. The problem is, a year and a half to 2 years ago, Rocky Mountain Power said that they wanted to transition to alternative energy, to wind and solar and hydroelectric, and they wanted to do that as soon as possible. And the problem is our supermajority Republican legislature, particularly Stuart Adams, the president of the Senate, and I can't remember the name of the leader of the House, they, as they usually do, came up with, they basically required Rocky Mountain Power to keep buying and using the coal produced in the eastern part of the state into their two major power generating plants, also located in the eastern part of the states. And so, actually, with wind, solar, and the other alternatives, that's becoming cheaper than coal. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize that, but that's a fact. And I can provide evidence if you need that. So, over three different meetings, the legislature required Rocky Mountain Power to keep buying coal from these mining companies there and using it in their plants and not transitioning to a cheaper form of alternative energy. So the biggest blame goes with our supermajority Republican legislature that has basically caused, we might not even have to have this 30% original proposal if they had let Rocky Mountain Power do what they had originally suggested. So the biggest part, like I say, the biggest problem here is just a super conservative, especially the leadership of the Senate and the House of the Utah legislature. My facts will come from 3 articles printed in the Salt Lake Tribune, which is generally recognized as an accurate, fair, and responsible media outlet, journalism, and I'll be happy to give you those details if you like. But I would recommend that everybody here find out who your representative is, your House representative, your Senate representative, and tell them to get with their leadership and do away with this requirement that Rocky Mountain Power has to keep buying coal that they don't want to, and that's causing the cost to go up. The commission might even talk to the head of the Utah legislature as well and suggest that they reconsider. Thank you. Any questions?
I don't think we have any questions, Mr. Fisher. Thank you, though, for your comments, and I'm sorry we missed you earlier. Well, I'm going to make a couple of comments here, but let me just tell you that our notice indicated that people could arrive and make public comments. The building is open till 6 o'clock or so, and we understand people would be coming after work. So we're not going to conclude this hearing. We'll take a break and see if other people want to attend and make comments. We may have people arriving here around 6 o'clock. But before I just make a few comments for those of you who are here, is there anybody else who has not had a chance to sign the list who wants to make a comment? Seeing none, let me just say we very much appreciate your attendance this evening. You've sacrificed your own personal time. Some of you got off work to be here. I think it's important, this is my personal belief, that you exercise your franchise to speak up as citizens of the state of Utah. I view the First Amendment right as a sacred and very important right. Freedom of speech is something that I highly value. I'm an attorney by background, and I appreciate those of you who have spoken and articulated your positions this evening. With that, if you'd like to leave, we're going to recess, and we'll come back at 6 o'clock and see if there's other people who appear and want to make additional comments. That's what we've indicated in our notice, and so we're going to keep this open until a little after 6 p.m. Okay, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. here, and we appreciate those of you who have stayed. And it's a little unusual, but I'm going to first of all give Mr. Larson an opportunity to say something that he would still didn't get an opportunity to say before. Come on up.
It'll be really short.
Sure, come on up and add what you'd like.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, as you can see, you had a lot of representation from the Wasatch Front here. It'd be really nice if we could get some meetings down more in the rural part of the state, maybe Richfield, even Cedar City. Especially the ag community, it's hard for them to drop things and come all the way to Salt Lake for a meeting. And if it was a little closer, we'd probably get a lot better input from rural Utah. And that's basically it. I just forgot to mention it.
No, I think that's helpful we'll consider that.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have Mr. McBride, Glenn McBride, representing the Capitol Hill neighborhood. I have to declare a conflict. I live in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, so come on up, Mr. McBride.
Thank you. Capitol Hill.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Yeah. We call ourselves Cap Hill, but the name of the organization is the Capitol Hill Neighborhood Council. Well, I won't take long. Thanks for taking a few moments to listen to what I have to say, but I will tell you up front that it's probably what you've heard several times already. But I wanted to, as board chair of the Cap Hill Council, I wanted to say a couple of words. Mostly, I feel like, based on what I've heard and read and thought about, that there may not have been enough background work done to make the decision that you're about to make. It just feels like there's more to be done, more research, more sharing with the public. And I'm going to read 3 quick statements. I'm not necessarily against the proposal, but I think, again, more information may be needed. The past, present, and future costs to our community of the negative health, economic, social, and other quality of life impacts of Rocky Mountain Power's use of fossil fuel combustion to generate electricity have been identified, quantified, monetarily assessed, and made publicly available. This is what we're asking be done. Number 2, Rocky Mountain Power submits to the PSC an energy generation plan that significantly reduces expenditures for the continued maintenance and operation of fossil fuel-based electricity production and agrees to decommission, dismantle all of its Utah coal plants by 2030. Thirdly, the aforementioned energy generation plan shall contain, but not be limited to, potential electric utility rate structures that reward customers who conserve and produce clean energy, and B, recover any additional system costs from the customers using the highest volumes of energy. I appreciate the decision before you is not easy, and I also appreciate that you've tried hard to listen to the public, and I'm grateful for your taking a few extra minutes to listen to my few comments, but I do feel like more ought to be done to respond to the community concerns before the decision is finalized. Thanks very much for your time, and I wish you the best in your good work here.
Thank you, Mr. McBride.
You bet.
Thank you. We are aware of anybody else who has, we said we would keep the building lobby open till 6:10. In our notice, we said that people needed to be here and present by 6 o'clock. Before we adjourn, I just want to thank the representatives of the parties that have been here this evening and listened to the public comments. That's very much appreciated. And the folks from the Office of Consumer Service staff who've helped us to manage this proceeding, as well as all of the Public Service Commission staff who've worked, Fred, Melissa, Gary, and others who've worked to put this together, and also for our court reporter who's had a very long day. Thank you. And lastly, I just want to say thank you to Lieutenant Van Fleet and Trooper Walker and Trooper Contreras of the Utah Highway Patrol. I have I'm going to make a personal aside here. I have a very warm feeling towards the Highway Patrol. I've been involved with the Highway Patrol for probably close to 20 years now as an honorary colonel. There are 29 honorary colonels of the Highway Patrol in the state of Utah. The men and women of the Utah Highway Patrol are heroes and tremendous public servants. They're not here tonight because I'm a former chair of the honorary colonels. They're here because it's their responsibility. And these are folks that are all on the Capitol detail. They have a responsibility to maintain public order in public buildings, and so they're here to help us. And frankly, I was incredibly impressed with the conduct of the public this evening. In a former life, I held another position involving alcohol regulation in the state of Utah. Sometimes public hearings in those cases were not quite as dignified, and people didn't act with the decorum that was we all witnessed here tonight. So I attribute that in part to the presence of the troopers as well, and want to express our appreciation to you and to everyone who made their comments tonight. And with that, we will conclude this public witness hearing and adjourn. Thank you.